Before I begin, on this channel we already looked around a couple of Realme smartphones, unfortunately with really low number of views. I understand why. Firstly, our channel is not that popular by far, and secondly, Realme is way less known than Xiaomi, so people might just be afraid of trying another China. But believe me, this brand has all chances to outmatch Xiaomi, and we want you to know why. So I will do appreciate if you check other Realme videos that I shared in the description box right after Realme 6i, the most affordable from the 6 series. Welcome to Tech Fellas, mine is Bogdan, and let's take into it.
Upon unboxing this phone, you will be met by a completely plastic body. I mean, the glass here is only on the front panel. Actually, it's also got a bit of a plastic on it, pretty thin one, called the protective film. Frankly speaking, the outer look of 6i is quite simple, but as all other models in series have beautiful shimmering backs, the younger one has got such too. By the way, it's not just some kind of random psychedelic, but a pro-designer psychedelic given by Naoto Fukasawa, who's incidentally is a prominent Japanese industrial designer and just a good fella after all. I think Realme made a great choice including Naoto's mastery to a relatively inexpensive phone. In result, you get not a faceless plastic bumper, but a nice looking pitch. Among the goodies of this body, first of all, I must mention both the Type-C port and the mini jack. Secondly, a card drawer has both 3 sections. Thirdly, the frame around the screen is actually pretty slim, but could be worse if taken the class of the smartphone. Here you can visually compare it with more expensive Realme 6 Pro. That looks really nice.
Number 4 in this list is NFC that should be in every phone of any brand, and I'm happy to have it here.
Obviously, the fingerprint reader is included here, together with face recognition that is based on the front camera. Both of the scanners successfully cope with the task of letting you inside the phone, and do that pretty fast. That, regarding the finger one, kinda compensates its position on the back and not under the screen as modern fashion demands. Before we get to what actually goes after unlocking the phone, I just must mention that it is well assembled. No disturbing feeling that it will fall apart in your hands. Yep, cheap Chinese phones is not a smelly fragile POS anymore. So, what goes after unlocking? You see the whole beauty of the screen. It is 6.5 inches IPS LCD with HD+. In our review of 6 Pro model, I had complaints to the uneven backlight in its screen. Here it's basically absent and only barely noticeable around the due dot notch. There is a bit of a graining, but it won't bother you unless before this phone you spend a huge time with 2K screen smartphones. Also, there is no such abomination like PWM. Viewing angles are adequate by the standards of IPS panels, but I have questions to the brightness adjustment range. The upper peak of the backlight is fine, while the lower one could obviously be dimmer. In total, it's not perfect, but bearable. Let's talk about cameras. The front facing is generally quite decent, although you won't see some saturated colors on the taken pics, but it clearly tells about all details of your face, copes with overexposure in frame, and doesn't distort the photo. The main camera in Realme 6i creates both close-up shots as well as ultra-wide angle photos. No worry, classic mode is in the place of course. Actually, the main lens is the most pleasing among other in dynamic range, colors and sharpness. However, after some flagships from Samsung, I must say that shooting on Realme 6i won't be that piece of cake. It can surely take awesome photos, but so that would be on the first try, from the first take? Unfortunately not. In some occasions the picture may be lacking of sharpness, so get used to taking a series of photos. For the rest, I have no complaints. Smartphone is also not afraid to do night photos. It is able to see what's hiding behind the black spots that human eye doesn't see and show it in the photo. But when it comes to details, in my humble opinion, you understand that it could have been better. Or am I just too demanding towards the middle class phones? Some may be happy just because this feature works. Now about videos, the maximum given resolution here is 1080p. As for 2020, I'd say it's fine. The quality of clips is not bad, but there is no stabilization, that makes me sad. So a couple of seconds more with the example, and let's move to the sound. Through the speaker, the smartphone frankly is not too expressive. There is no stereo pair, the volume keeps the average level. This speaker will be quiet enough for daily tasks, but it just cannot replace or even compete with portable boomboxes. Nothing impressive we could find in the sound through headphones, but it is not bad. Realme 6i sounds normally like any smartphone on the market. Seriously, who would ever expect some hi-fi in such smartphones? The sound is a sound. Yes, these words are literally in the script just to make the point. The maximum volume is adequate, just if you forgot, I once again remind you about the beloved mini jack. Next goes the hardware. Realme 6i is built around the fresh mid-range chipset that some people even dared calling a gaming one. It is Mediatek Helio G80. It has 8 cores and the frequency up to 2 GHz. For the graphics there is Mali G52MC2 with 1 GHz frequency. Our samples got 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. When we first got it out of the box and looked at specs, I thought that this is a copy of Realme 6, only with some differences in design and set of cameras. Obviously I was wrong, but the mentioned combination actually is not letting down. Both in interface and daily apps the smartphone seems to be a rocket. It has no slowdowns, no lags. In games the situation is as following: all sorts of Cut the Rope, Subway Surfers and similar games open and work with lightning speed. Demanding software like World Tanks Blitz or PUBG is not so easygoing, but it is doing extremely well here. For example, absolutely unexpectedly for me, World Tanks Blitz on the top graphics rolled the first 10 games at 40 to 50 FPS, with drawdowns to 25-30 when action comes. After, the rates slowly begin to drop. Epic life hack is switching to middle settings and get stable 50-60 FPS. This is how it works, and works perfectly. Turns out it is truly a gaming hardware, so therefore do we have a gaming smartphone? Of course not. I'll just say it has an acceptable level of performance for the medium budget segment. Do benchmark tests agree with my decision? Well, they shown us such results, which we gladly share with you. The numbers are pretty decent. Now the heating test. During 1 hour playing World of Tanks while connected to charging, the phone warmed up to 38.5 degrees. This is the body temperature. The battery told us 35 degrees and the processor up to 60. What about throttling? A couple of more screenshots for ya. In real-time use, such a strong drop down of performance is not felt even during long gaming sessions.
But let's be realistic, we cannot tell exactly will this be relevant even after 6 months. Frankly, I am not 100% sure about that.
The battery in the smartphone is about huge 5000 mAh. From the daily use, I can say it gives a stable stone cold 1 day of work plus a bit more. If you don't push the phone on demanding tasks on average, you won't have to charge it more than once in a day and a half. Careful people will stretch it out to 2 days. Gosh, how I hate this combination of 2 and 2. As for the charging, from the native power brick and cable, Realme 6i gets 17% in 15 minutes, 32% in 30 minutes, 62% in 60 minutes, 86% after 90 minutes, and the full charge took us 135 minutes.
Looking at those 500 mAh, I'd say that the numbers are pretty crisp, but there's the drill. The page about 6i on Realme website somehow calls it a quick charge. Why the heck? I have no idea.
Summarizing the stuff, Realme 6i is not without drawbacks. It doesn't have the coolest camera for its price and unlike other models of the line hasn't got 90Hz screen. But the trump cards are also quite significant. Broad battery life, surprisingly pleasant performance, combination of Type-C and mini jack, the coolest card drawer, plus NFC and active Google services right out of the box.
I will certainly recommend 6i for buying, and I think that this is quite a prominent device. If you like this video, then why not to support our channel by subscribing to it, checking our other videos, hitting the like button and ringing the bell to stay tuned for more cool content. My thanks for watching and cheers!